That sound means that it is showtime in less than 5 minutes, guys. If you could do me a huge favor, a couple things actually, let me know where you're joining from in the comments below. And number two, start thinking about your questions that you have for Brian, our Sigma Tech slash sales slash all around awesome person that's joining us today. We'll talk to you soon. Look at all you early birds. The early bird is getting the worm, and what I need from you is I need to know where you're joining us from. It looks like we already have about 10 people in here. Don't be shy. Let us know where you're coming from. Also, if you could do me a huge favor, share with your friends that you're joining us today. Let us know where you are joining from. Oh, hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing Great. Also, when I was setting up that timer, I was trying to set up a watch party with some local photography groups. So you saw like this random picture of me like working. So I apologize for that. So hello, welcome. Hopefully that music has you pumped, that roller coaster has you thinking about maybe going to Cedar Point this summer, which I just saw they extended their season pass till the whole next year. So once we get through this, you can ride all day and all night at Cedar Point. America's roller coaster, right on. Well, today we're not talking about roller coasters. We are talking about Sigma. And this couldn't come at a better time because I myself am looking for a couple new lenses. And what you might not know is, in my live stream setup, I use the Canon C100 Mark II, and I use the 18 to 35, 1.8. Is the lens that I use on this camera. So, I'm a Sigma user. A lot of the guys and gals in store are Sigma users. And that's why we wanted to, bring Brian on today to talk a little bit about the Sigma line. So let's bring him in here. Let's chit chat. Let me make sure he's unmuted. Brian, I do want to warn you, I am the king of the mute. So a lot of times I'll accidentally mute myself. So don't freak out if you see that my lips are moving and you don't hear me. I'm probably screwing up. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you?
I am doing well. And you're joining us from a time zone over, right?
Yes, I'm in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, so I'm an hour behind you.
Excellent, excellent. Well, now that I'm an hour ahead, the weather's nice. Corona is still here. I can't really tell you about winning lottery tickets, though. I don't think that's how it works. But thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. So we're going to talk a little, give us kind of a preview of what we're going to be talking about today. Just a little preview.
So short preview is I'm going to talk very briefly about the history of Sigma. I'm going to talk about our lineup of lenses in terms of we have 3 different groups and what they are, what their strengths are. I will talk about application. I will talk about some tips and techniques going through this. Please be patient with me. There will be a tip or two for the rank beginner, for the very folks that are just getting into this, but then there will be more advanced tips as we go through. So it won't all be up to the beginner, but like I said, I will spread it out. And that's essentially it. I am not going to do a slideshow today. The reason for that is that personally, I've never been a big fan of watching some always beautiful, stunning, gorgeous photographs that I didn't shoot.
Absolutely. I don't blame you a bit. And so what we're going to do is, as Brian talks about something, I'm going to bring it up on the Sigma website. So, a lot of times when you're doing your research, whether it's on our website or on the Sigma website, you might be wondering what these different things are. And I'll show you how you do that. So we'll kind of fade back and forth. And then honestly, as I have questions, I'm going to selfishly throw those in there because, I'm looking for a couple new lenses myself for video and photo. So I'll be peppering those in there. So thank you for that little preview. I do have a little bit of housekeeping to do before we get started. Number one is who is here with us. Let's check out and see who is joining us. Eeyore, welcome. My El Camino that is in the chat helping out. Thank you for being here. We got Rich Wilson here. He's from Erie, PA. He's here to learn a little bit about Sigma lenses. Wayne, hello from Amherst, Ohio. I'm assuming that's Amherst, Ohio. Not too far from me. I was actually born in Amherst, Ohio. Remember that. It might come back in a quiz later. Jim Summers, he is back. Hello, Jim. Thank you again for joining us today. We have Karna joining us from Canton, Michigan. Hello, Karna. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for coming back. And then our friend, Tech Gear Talk. What's up, everyone? Hey, TJ, and welcome, Brian, our friend and presenter from about 2 weeks ago who talked about YouTube. So if you want to talk a little bit about YouTube, you can go back to that video on YouTube or Facebook to learn some tips. And I think he has some questions about weather sealing that we'll get to as well. So let's go ahead and check out our housekeeping items for the day. Number one, we are still open at the store. So from 1 to 5 every day but Sunday, we are here to serve you. So all you have to do is we do curbside pickup, pull up, honk your horn, flash your lights, send up smoke signals, or just give us a call, and we will bring your stuff out for you. You can call ahead and do the order, or we can, process it when you get there. We just want to make sure everybody is staying safe and you're getting the gear that you need. We're also offering our cleaning services. A lot of people don't know, but we do clean and checks, calibrations, We do all those services as well. So if you're, ramping up for this wedding season and you need your gear all prepped and ready to go, let us know and we can get that taken care of you for you as well. Our goal is to do this every day at noon. So if you have a idea, a topic, something that you want to see, or maybe we did a live stream and you want to know more of, please let me know. I am more than happy to get that scheduled for you. Moving on from there, I want to let you know about a couple opportunities to get more content. Number one is the PPA, the Professional Photographers of America, is giving all of their content away for free during the pandemic. So if you want to increase your photography knowledge, your business, how you do your business, I can't urge you enough to go at least check out their website. They're not sponsoring this. They didn't even ask me to put this up here at the front of every show, but it means so much to me. The PPA means so much to me that I wanted to share that with you. Another thing I noticed is Sue Bryce is opening up her content for 2 more days. So this only goes till the end of the week, but hurry up, jump over there. It goes until the 26th. So actually 3 more days. She's all of her content, all of her courses that are normally kind of expensive, worth it, but expensive, is opened up for free. So do yourself a favor and go check out Sue Bryce's site. And then also I have a favor to ask, and that is that could you please go over to social.thepixelconnection.com. We launched a new podcast this weekend and we're on the iTunes store. So if you want to learn a little bit about business, that's what that podcast is for. It's myself and Justin Gamble, a local photographer. We talk about the business of photography. And the idea is the podcast is starting from scratch. And then every 2 weeks, we're dropping an episode where, we're taking your business to that next level. So if you've been thinking about, turning this into a business, if you've been thinking about, maybe there's a certain part of your business, like developing your style, developing your niche. We also have a COVID-19 resources for COVID-19. If you could help me out and do that, that first 30 days for a podcast is make or break. So that's why I'm begging your guys' help. If you could do that for me, all you have to do is go over to social.thepixelconnection.com and you'll see the 2 links for podcasts. If you're on iTunes or if you're on an Apple device, please click on the Apple Podcast link and subscribe there. That would be a huge help. If you don't, I understand. I totally get it. Don't think that you have to, but I would really appreciate it. So what are our goals for today? Number one is to pull you away from the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that is going on, the FUD, if you will. I want to remind you that you have this awesome gift, this gift of photography, something that is an awesome hobby that you love. So if I can just pull you away for half hour to an hour every day, that's how I check that box of success. That's how I know that we have met the need, because I want you to focus on your hobby, your love, your passion, even your business of photography. And that's why I do these things every single day. The other thing is I'm hoping to get you outside of your comfort zone. So maybe you haven't thought about choosing Sigma lenses. You've always gone first party. Well, you might find that after watching this, that there's a lens that solves a problem within your business or within your hobby. And once you get outside that comfort zone is where, like I say every day, that's where the magic happens. So my goal is to push you into that uncomfortable place or that outside of your comfort zone. And also, I want to help you discover a new niche that could become profitable in the future. So today, as we talk about lenses, maybe you look at, a new wide angle to get into landscapes. Maybe you get into a macro because you're going to start doing food and macro and commercial photography. Or maybe you get that new art, that new portrait lens, and you add headshots to your repertoire, because I want you to be profitable. At the end of the day, if this is a business for you, I want to help you become profitable. And then if you have any questions for me, or there's any resources that you would like us to share, please just email me at social@thepixelconnection.com or reach out anywhere on social, and I will make sure that I get that information to you. So that's all the housekeeping I have. It looks like we already have some questions coming in. So we'll come back to those, because I do want to start off and give people kind of an introduction to, what is Sigma and why is it important? So tell me, Brian, tell me about Sigma. Where did it come from, and why would someone choose Sigma?
Okay, good morning. A real fast introduction. I'm Brian Matsumoto. I am the Midwest Regional Technical Rep for Sigma. Brief history, I have a bachelor's degree in photography from Southern Illinois University, And I've been around the photo industry for a long time. I was 13 and a half years as a tech rep for Canon. I was very fortunate. I hired on at Canon in 2000 and was able to ride the digital transition wave from film to digital, which was a really great experience. And from then, I've been with Sigma as a technical rep. It's a really great company. Brief history. Sigma was formed in Japan in 1961. They remain the last large photographic manufacturer in Japan that is still owned and operated by the founding family, which is pretty cool. In 2012, they had several things happened, including a tsunami that destroyed their Seoul factory. Everything is made in one plant. Actually, we like to say everything is handcrafted in Japan in one place in Aizu, Japan, on the northern island of Hokkaido. The plant was destroyed by the tsunami that destroyed the Fukushima nuclear power plant. And so in 2012, they decided, since they had the opportunity and insurance money and government money to rebuild, that they were going to retool, and they had figured out that they could make lenses as good as, if not better than, Canon and Nikon's best. So that the Canon L lenses and the Nikon EDIF lenses, that they could give them a run for their money at a much better price point. So going forward, we have 3 lines of lenses. We have the art line. So this is the 24 to 70 f2.8 on a Sony. Sorry, I'm doing this backwards. We also have, this is the 70 to 200 f2.8 sport lens. And we have the contemporary line of lenses. And I will talk about each of the lines and what their strengths are and what makes them different. So the art line of lenses, we have essentially 13 prime lenses and 5 zoom lenses. Actually, I take that back, 9 zoom lenses in the art line. And these are the marriage of outstanding optical quality and outstanding build quality. All of the lenses have some degree of weather sealing, because I know there was a question in there about weather sealing. And in the last 4 years or so, pretty much all of those lenses that were introduced 2016 coming forward have 100% weather seals. So they're all pretty tough. Though, if you exercise common sense, if you're out on a rainy day, keep the camera under your coat, because you also have to protect your, part of this will depend on your camera. Some cameras have great weather sealing, some cameras do not. So that's one of those, you just need to be aware of that factor. But if you exercise common sense, you will be absolutely fine. So from there, all right, so the art line, we have several primes from 14 millimeter to 135. The advantage of the art line is they're fast, particularly the primes. On either end, the 14 millimeter and the 135 millimeter f1, both of them are f1.8. The other lenses in the lineup are either f1.4 and we do have one f1.2 lens. So they're really fast. They're really great. And they cover quite the range. So there's a 105, there's an 85, there's a 70 macro, which is a 2.8. There's a 50, a 40, 50, 40, 35, 28, 24, 20, and a 14. And then we have the art zooms. Kind of same thing here. They're either f4, which is the 12 to 24, or the 24 to 105. The rest of them are 2.8. Oh, and I take that back. We have one at f2. So we have a 24 to 35 f2, and we have a 14 to 24, a 24 to 70 f2.8. So they're fast. They're really good, and they're significantly less expensive than the camera manufacturer's options. So one of those things to consider. The other great thing about Pixel is that they offer rental, so that if you really wanted to try a lens, you could certainly rent it first to try it.
Absolutely. We have a
And then,
full lineup in store of the Sigma lenses, and that's for, across the mount. So if you have a Canon, you have a Nikon, you have a Sony, you have L mount, whatever it is, just shoot us a message, give us a call, and we can set that up for rental. Especially when it comes to wedding season, we have a lot of photographers that will rent like that 35 art. They will rent the 85, stuff like that. So it's a great way to try a lens before you buy it. And I do urge you to, try out the Sigma lenses because they are super fast. They are of the utmost quality. I mean, what they're doing in their art line, all their lines, but really their art line is absolutely amazing.
yes, we're very fortunate. We have great engineers, and they truly understand the demands of photographers. So with that said, moving on to the sport line. So the advantage, so again, back to the 70 to 200. In the sport line, these are truly designed to be extraordinarily fast, accurate focus, extraordinary sharpness, and they're all wrapped in a package that is extraordinarily tough. So 100% weather sealing, 2 focus motors in all of the sport lenses, and some of them may not necessarily be fast. But so this is the 70 to 200. We have the 150 to 600. Yes, we offer 2, and I'll talk about the contemporary line here in a minute. We also have the 120 to 300 f2.8. Yes, it is a beast, but it is one of my favorite lenses to go to when I'm looking for something long. It's extraordinarily sharp and very, very fast focus. We have the 60 to 600 as well. Again, now the 150 to 600 and the 60 to 600 are slower. They're f5 to 6.3, but outdoors are just amazing if you like to shoot birds, wildlife, sports, aviation. These are really great lenses for those applications. Actually, I know some people that photograph portraits, outdoor portraits, with a 150 to 600.
And now, who would the sport line, like the art line, is for people that, that's a more diverse line, because I could see where you would use those lenses kind of across the board. Like if I'm doing portrait, I'm doing anything where I want that fast aperture. Who would
Yes.
the sports line be for?
The sport line is really for people who are out and about in all kinds of weather, which really applies to birders and wildlife photographers, but it also applies to anybody shooting sports or action, or folks who like to photograph auto racing, because auto racing is always a dusty environment, and these lenses, again, are 100% weather sealed. This is one of those that you could drop one of these lenses into a puddle, shake it off, put it on your camera, and keep shooting, and the images will be sharp. These were truly designed for photojournalists, because folks who shoot or photograph for newspapers are very hard on their gear. They just really beat their stuff up, one, because they don't have to pay for it. And because of that, but they expect their gear to be really, really good and sharp day in and day out, even though they don't take good care of it.
Absolutely.
So this was designed for them. So the advantages for everybody else is that, like I said, if you're out in all kinds of weather, if on occasion your tripod with your camera and lens gets blown over in a high wind, it's going to survive. So,
excellent. And we do have a couple questions that came in specific to weather sealing and
sure.
this line.
Yes.
And Rocky, I do have your question. We'll circle back to that in just a second. But the first one comes from Tech Gear Talk. I have the 16 millimeter f1.4 for both Sony and Canon. The Sony has a black rubber gasket around the mount, and the Canon does not. Curious if that had to do with the mount design, and I guess the question too, does he have anything to worry about because that gasket is on one and not the other?
Part of this, so now, well, again, part of this is going to depend on which version 16 he has from both. So obviously, let's see, the Sony has the gasket. Okay. Most of the Canons also show the gasket. Again, being an old Canon tech rep, it depends on the version, but of late,
The EFM.
Okay, of late, they've been able to hide the gasket, so it's not out there, so it's not readily apparent going forward. Same thing with our lenses. The gasket is not readily apparent unless you're really looking for it. But It's there.
Excellent. So nothing to worry about there. It's just a different
Nothing
design.
to worry about. Correct. More than anything, you're going to have to worry about your camera
Yeah, absolutely.
than you will about the lens.
About the lens.
Yes.
The next question is, does the 150 to 600 take a teleconverter? And if it does, how well does the autofocus work with a teleconverter on it?
Part of this will depend. All right. So the issue is the 150 to 600. At 600, it's an f6.3. Part of this will depend on your camera. I know Sony, I believe, goes to f11 on the A7 series of cameras, which is really nice. Canon, center focus point only, goes to f8, although I believe the 1DX Mark III is different. I believe it now goes to f11. I'm not sure about Nikon. I don't have an answer for the Nikon side of things. But you have to be careful. So if you exceed, like on the Canon f8, so if you use a 1.4 on there, it'll work for autofocus, center focus point only. If you go to the 2X, you're going to lose autofocus. However, you can still, you can still focus manually like the old days. I always laugh because I've known a lot of folks that, particularly bird photographers, in the days of manual focus, and they were really, really good at it. It just takes practice. So this kind of just depends on the photographer. But obviously, yes, autofocus helps a lot. So again, this will depend solely on your camera.
Okay, but it will accept that teleconverter.
Right. It will accept the teleconverters, yes.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
Sigma makes teleconverters that match up quite well. I can vouch for the Canon series or version 3 teleconverters will also work very, very well. The reason that Canon has had 3 versions is as the cameras go up in resolution and as the autofocus performance has changed, they've had to adapt and change the optical formula of the teleconverters.
And you bring up a good point there, and maybe we can
conversion.
divert a little bit. When we talk about, this higher resolution count, for example, we're seeing on the EOS R, it's 30 some megapixels, the Mark IV, 30 some megapixels. We're seeing all these megapixels. So if I get a version 1 of, say, the 70 to 200, 2.8, let's say, or, an earlier Sigma lens, do I have anything to worry about with a newer camera? What's going to happen?
No, part of this is that the art line of lenses were designed and they tried to future-proof the line going forward. So even the 35 f1.4 art lens, which was introduced in 2012, that was our very first art lens, they were designed for sensors well north of 30 megapixels. So going forward, now, yes, I can't remember right off somebody has a camera out there, I think it's Sony, that's 64 megapixels on the sensor. You would be you're pushing the envelope at that point for the 35 f1.4. However, we rolled out a 35 f1.2 for the Sony mount and the L mount, and that's future-proofed for well north of 64 megapixels.
Okay,
So
and I guess the point that I wanted to make is if you have that older lens and you go to a newer camera, you might have to consider that upgrade. So if you did pick up, the A7R4 and, these higher megapixel cameras, you definitely want to take a look. That is definitely something to consider when you are upgrading your camera. I think a lot of photographers will, not even consider, because we're taught and trained to invest in glass, invest in glass, invest in glass.
Correct.
So when we update our bodies, we don't think about it. It's like we buy it once and it's good until it cracks, it gets, mildew in there, whatever, gets a speck inside, we have to service it. But, we don't really think about, that resolution that it can, resolve that image. So good key takeaway is make sure when you are upgrading to take that into consideration.
And so going back to the 70 to 200, we introduced that just a year and a half ago. So again, that is also well suited and future proofed for sensors well north of 64 megapixel. So the other, because the funny part is I talk to photographers all the time who tell me that they're using the original Canon 70 to 200 f2.8, which was designed in the days of film. And they say they still love it. And it's like my suggestion to everybody is if your lenses are sharp and they're delivering the performance that you expect, leave them alone. You're absolutely good to go. It's only if you don't think they're sharp enough, part of it could be that you're out resolving the lens with your camera, particularly if you've got a higher full frame, higher resolution sensor. So that's just something to consider. And again, one of the great things is you can always rent the lens to test it, which
Absolutely.
is why Canon has, several version 2, version 3 lenses. Nikon slowly replacing their line of lenses as well. Sony has the G Master, are they version 2 already? So just food for thought. And like I said, all of our lenses, particularly the art line, the sport line, well, even the contemporary line, were designed for sensors well north of 50.
Excellent.
So just food for thought.
So we have the art line, we have the sports line.
Yes.
So next is the contemporary.
Line.
Tell us about the contemporary.
So the contemporary line of lenses were truly designed with a couple of other features in mind, and that's in terms of size and weight and bulk. So we have several. We have some crop sensor lenses, the 18-300, the 17-70, both crop sensor that are really excellent lenses. We have, and they're smaller, lighter, because they're not full frame. We also have, although with that said, you mentioned the 18-35, that's an art lens. That's also crop sensor, and its brother, the 50-100 f1. Both lenses are f1.8, which makes them so popular for video people. They love that constant aperture, the fact that it's fast.
And if you haven't checked out these lenses, I mean, the bang for the buck is ridiculous. So think about that: 18-35, so 1.8, and then the older brother, 50 to it's 100, right?
Yeah, 50-100.
50-100. And that was one of the ones I was looking at last night because they are f1.8. So I mean, then just the amount of primes that you have built into just those two lenses is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yes, and both lenses are right. Well, the 50-100 is right around $1,000. The 18-35 is less. So it's a heck of a bar. It's a lot of bang for the buck. Absolutely. So the contemporary line has more polycarbonate in it, and it has, I'm going to say, roughly about 70% weather seal. They have weather sealing in all the right places, which usually means the switches, which is more important. But we have a great 18-300, which is a crop sensor, but our 100-400 and we have a 150-600 contemporary. And the great thing about that lens is it's well under $1,000 for a 600 millimeter. Again, it is slower. It's an f5 to 6.3. Now, with that said, people will say, well, there's about $1,000 difference between the contemporary 150-600 and the sport 150-600. What's the difference? One, it's the build quality and the fact that you could drop that sport lens into a puddle, shake it off, and keep shooting. Don't do that with the contemporary.
Right.
However, with that said, I can't tell you how many folks I have seen at air shows and at birding events and at sporting events with the 150-600 contemporary. The lens keeps up. It does a great job. It's really fast. It's tremendous. So I'm an old Canon guy. And in AI Servo, the camera does an amazing job of tracking things, including motorsports. I've always been very, very impressed. So it's one of those that my suggestion to you is to try it. You'll be shocked. And again, at that price point, it's $8.99 through the end of the month. And there's a special that TJ will talk about here in a bit.
Stick around till the end for some extra savings from Sigma.
So again, you would just have to be a little bit more careful if you're out in the weather. But like I said, you can buy a rain cover for not a whole lot of money.
We have them at the store.
Yeah, pixel cells and
so optically, the two lenses, is one superior? Is it just a matter of build quality and weather sealing, or is there?
The reality of that is, excuse me, I have spring allergies. The reality of that is, yes, the sport lens is a skosh sharper. So we publish MTF charts on all of our lenses, just like Canon and Zeiss. Actually, Sony does as well, which is a graph showing you mathematically how sharp the lens is at a given distance at a given f-stop from edge to center to edge. And the nicest thing about that, or actually from center to edge, is how the MTF charts work. And so, the issue is a lot of times you want this. Thank you very much. You want the obviously in the lens, you want it to be sharp at the center. And in most telephotos, you're going to have fall off anyways because you're shooting close to wide open. But you truly want that center to be sharp. So the Sigma lenses are very sharp. Actually, if you Google any of our lenses and look at the reviews, so as opposed to listening to the tech rep tell you that these are great lenses, you'll be shocked. There's a lot of incredibly positive reviews out there from other folks. I would go check it out. Speaking of which, TJ is on the Sigma website, which is www.sigmaphoto.com. We also have a blog section there, which is full of testimonials and stories about people and how they're using our lenses. In addition, Sigma has a YouTube channel. So if you want to see things in action, that's another great place to go. So I would check both of those resources out. They're really helpful. And again, I highly recommend renting a lens to try it. You will be very impressed. So in addition, very quickly, a lot of our lenses have OS, which is optical stabilization. And speaking of all the letters, everybody's so fond of letters. Canon has EF and EFS, and Nikon has FX and DX. So for us, we have DG. DG is for full frame, which is like Canon's EF or Nikon's FX lenses. Crop sensor crop sensor lenses are DC lenses from us. So anything that's APS-C, EFS from Canon, DX from Nikon, same thing. They don't throw a big enough image circle behind it to cover full frame. So, but they work really, really well on video, as TJ already mentioned, because a full frame 35 millimeter sensor for cinema is very close to APS-C in terms of the sensor size. It's just the way it is.
Yep. So that's what I was just going to say. So like Super 35, for example, the camera that I'm using, that image circle falls right on that sensor without any issue. And then I was actually looking at the 5D4, and a lot of people will look at like a 4K crop and you'll see the internet like go crazy. Like, why do you have this crop? But what's great about that crop is when you take a lens like the 18 to 35 and you put it on there, that crop actually gets rid of the vignetting that you would normally see on that lens. So I was actually testing it last night. It makes it a phenomenal capture now. Now I have my 4K frame. I have that Sigma art lens on there that I can get down to 1.8, and I can still utilize and get great 4K footage with a lens that's, what, $600, I think it is.
Yep.
I mean, so there are advantages to that crop as well. And the same thing with like if you look at cinema cameras, a lot of them have like the micro 4/3 mount, or they'll have a Super 35 sensor in there, and that's a smaller sensor because, again, if you look at something like the Super Bowl, a lot of people think, well, that's like a premiere event, it's probably shot with full frame. Not really. It's actually the tiniest, smallest camera sensor that they could get and still get the quality, because they don't want to have to fight that depth of field. So don't get so caught up in that whole sensor size thing. Really just figure out what's the best tool for you. So if this lens solves a lot of problems for you, then it makes sense to, pair it up, like I said, with having that camera that has that crop sensor. So just because it's crop doesn't mean it's lesser. It's just a different way to solve the problem. So I also wanted to go back. So DC is for APS-C. So that's an easy way to kind of remember that C or crop.
C for crop, yes.
Yep.
Sadly, they don't, if it would have been me, it would have been DF for full frame.
That's what I was thinking.
DC
so what is D?
Crop. Well, and the weirder one is we came out with DN.
Okay.
Which should have been DM, because DN stands for mirrorless.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't
now
know
you will
that
see a
either.
combination of DCDN or DGDN. So, for example, the 35 f1.2 for the Sony and the L mount is DGDN.
Interesting. So the N is for mirrorless.
Mirrorless. Yeah, I
The
don't know why it
G
wasn't
is
M
for
for mirrorless, but yes, it's DN for mirrorless.
and
They never ask us in the field.
so then if that was a mirrorless crop lens, would it be DCDN?
That is correct.
Okay,
That is correct.
great to know. Good
So,
little piece of information.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And I
So,
also wanted to say, you did have someone praising you. I want to say thanks to Sigma for making the greatest Milky Way photography lens of all time. The 40 millimeter art, I've been blown away by the images I've been able to create since acquiring it. So there's
yeah.
some proof right there. So, someone, the Facebook user, said, they absolutely love that lens. And then also Tech Gear Talk said, thank you, Brian. Appreciate you answering his question.
No,
So
not a problem. So, a really quick, I'm going to divert here for just a second. My favorite two astrophotography lenses. Now, yes, a lot of the photographers who blog about astrophotography always say, use a 14, which is absolutely fine. It's extraordinarily wide, very panoramic. I'm a much bigger fan of a smaller angle of view because I can see constellations better, or the Milky Way. And as our Facebook user noted, the 40 is his favorite. My other favorite is the 28. Both of them were introduced last year. The greatest thing about these lenses is they have less than 1% and dramatically less than 1% chromatic aberration, which means the stars on the edges of the frame don't have color fringing, and they're incredibly sharp. So I love both of them. Again, just depending on what kind of perspective you want. But again, like I said, both lenses are just amazing, and I would highly recommend renting one of them. I would probably start with the 28. It's an amazing, absolutely amazing lens for astrophotography. Again, as is the 40, as the gentleman noted. Or sorry, I don't know if it's a man or a woman.
yeah, right.
Facebook user.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, they're just absolutely terrific lenses. Now, with that said, our 14 is also stunning, as is the 12 to 24 or the 14 to 24, because one, they're all art lenses. The 14 prime is an f1.8, so it's stunning. It gives you shorter exposures. You don't have to worry about star trails, but it's like I said, again, it's worth checking out. So, and I'll make a quick comment here to Jim Summers about try rodeo. Absolutely, I have done a couple of rodeos in my time. They are unbelievably well.
Yeah.
It's like dirt racing,
Yeah.
quarter mile or half mile dirt track. Same thing. Holy smokes, it's unbelievable.
And Jim, I'm wondering, are you talking about the one in Lodi? If you're in the Ohio area, I believe it's still going on. There's actually one in Lodi, Ohio. So if you're in the, Cleveland-ish area, if you're around the store, it's not too far away. I'm hoping Jim can comment back if that one is the one he's talking about, because it's actually like right in between us, I think. But Lodi, Ohio, they used to have a local rodeo. It's hard. I mean, you see like the big ones, the big rodeos that travel around, but it's almost, unless you get out west, like we don't really see a ton of them here in the Midwest.
Got it.
Oh, Burbank. Yes. Lodi, Burbank. So yep. Burbank, Ohio. I've gone there once and I haven't gone back to actually photograph it. I went there pre-photography, so I'll have to check that out. And then Jim also said rented the 14 millimeter and got stunning Milky Way images in Canyonlands last year. Bought the 40 millimeter for New Mexico this year. So again,
Nice.
Jim is he loves the Sigma stuff. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
I'm really jealous that you went to Canyonlands. And I hope you have a great trip out to New Mexico.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. Okay, to finish up with the contemporary line, so it's not that they're slouches. The lenses are incredibly sharp. The focus is very accurate and very fast. And the OS, the optical stabilization, works really well. I've always been, again, coming from Canon, I have always been really impressed since 2012 with all of the Sigma lenses. They're just amazing. And, that's Canon and Nikon and Sony are not slouches either in terms of making glass. So also one other quick tip. the greatest thing to me, one of the great advantages that Sigma has is that all of our lenses are made at that one plant in Aizu, Japan. Nothing is made anywhere else. They go so far as they also have a foundry as part of the factory. They make their own screws. They're very, what this gives us, the advantage that Sigma has is tremendous quality control right out of the box. So, and on top of that, please know that all lenses, as long as there's a microprocessor in the lens, that means that microprocessor is being run by firmware, software. We make a USB dock for both Nikon and Canon that allows you to upgrade the firmware in the lens. And the reason we do this is that as Canon and Nikon, well, and Sony, as they change and improve their autofocus parameters in the camera, we can adopt the lens to react with those advantages, those improvements going forward. So they're really great. And yes, you'll notice there's a tutorial up there as well. So they're very easy to use. They're about $60. And I highly recommend them because this allows you to keep your lenses current, particularly if you have a Canon, you've been shooting an SLR and you've bought a R camera. I'm really curious to see what the new specs are going to be on the R5. I haven't seen a resolution yet, but the R5 looks pretty amazing. And on the Nikon side, it allows you to adapt or upgrade the Nikon mount lenses to work really well with a Z camera.
Okay.
So Sony works a little differently. You have to upgrade. We offer firmware upgrades for the Sony lenses. You have to do it through the camera body.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a firmware upgrade to the body. But in the menu selection, you have choice of body or lens. So you could do either. And it's very simple and it's quick, it's easy. So we don't have at this point a USB dock for Sony. I believe it's in the works. And well, due to the coronavirus, everything has been kind of slowed down in terms of production because our plant is on a skeleton crew because of coronavirus there in Japan. So we won't see the new stuff quite as quickly this year due to that. But,
and a question I had too. So Panasonic, I believe you also have to do through the.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely.
Through the camera. So the Panasonic stuff,
and the Leica, you have to do through the body, camera body. That is correct.
Yep.
That's what we've talked about the L mount, and the L mount applies to the Leica cameras and the Panasonic full frame cameras. Leica full frame, Panasonic full frame, and that's how you do the firmware upgrade to the lens is through the body.
And your guys is as well?
Yes, correct.
FP.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So what else you got for us? We talked about the 3 different lines. So. Yes. And there's actually, so if you are a video person, there's a whole cinema line as well that you can check out. And we have those cinema lenses in store. So if you are that customer, everybody that I'm seeing here looks like they're more photo related. But if you do have some cinema questions, feel free to email us and we can go through that line as well. That could be another whole live stream.
Okay. So I talked about a few quick tips and techniques. So number one, again, this is a basic tip. When you photograph, I highly recommend, a lot of people will do this. Whoops, sorry, this is backwards. So if your left hand that's holding the lens is palm down like this, you'll notice right now there's nothing under the camera. The downside of this, if you get bumped and you don't have the strap around your neck and you, for whatever reason, let go, the camera is going to fall to the ground. 70% of the repairs that come into either Canon, Nikon, or Sony, or Sigma are because the piece was dropped. Just FYI. So, to fix that, and one of the reasons why photographers talk about this all the time is that when you photograph, left hand palm up, and you put the lens into your palm. The wonderful great thing about that is that your fingers are already at the zoom ring. So it's very easy to zoom. 2, you now have a base to hold the camera steady, and you can keep your elbows in to help you hold the camera steady as you shoot. Also, one other quick tip is when you use the shutter, Don't punch the shutter, squeeze the shutter. Gives you much sharper images. Second tip. So this is a lens hood. I can't tell you how many people I see out in the field when I do workshops or go to a photo conference or convention. How many people don't shoot with a hood? This does great duty, one, to protect the front element of the lens. It does a far better job than most filters because, one, it's plastic and it extends out further from the front. Plastic or polycarbonate absorbs the shock and spreads it out along the hood, which is why they crack. Metal, which all filters have a metal ring, transmit the shock in. And that makes it much harder on the lens, which generally when you drop a lens requires more, and it's a more expensive repair. So just food for thought. But hoods are really vital, whether you're inside or outside, because light is all around us, and you get stray light hitting the front element, which just diffuses the image. So I highly recommend using the hood. Hoods are very specific and designed for each lens. While Pixel may not have the specific lens hood in stock, they can certainly order it from us for you. Easy to do. Filters. Filters are the greatest tip I can give you is don't buy cheap filter. Cheap filters, all they're going to do, excuse me, all they're going to do is degrade the image. If you're going to buy a filter, buy the best. I know Pixel has ProMaster, and they also actually have Sigma filters, which are great optical glass, and several of them are ceramic. And the reason for the ceramic coating is that they're very good at taking shock. We have a video online on our website of dropping a ball bearing from 5 feet to that filter, and it doesn't crack or break. It's that ceramic coating that's incredibly tough.
And that's what we see a lot of times where people will buy a lens and, they want to protect that front element. They spend all this money, but then they get just this cheap lens, and you're putting bad glass in front of great glass.
Yes. Oh, that's a really bad thing.
Just invest in that, whether it's, a lot of our customers like the Peter McKinnon stuff, the Polar Pro, it's very well done.
Yes.
The ProMaster, the Sigma, that's all quality glass. And like if the Sigma, for example, like it's been tested over and over again to be of utmost quality. And that's probably the key takeaway for today that I keep hearing is just Sigma's attention to detail when it comes to quality, owning the manufacturing process, giving tools that are, good enough for photojournalists who are super, super tough on their gear. That's what I want to know, because I want that piece of lens to, last beyond its depreciation. I want it to go, I want to hold on to this lens forever. So that's one thing that, continues on with their filters as well, is just the utmost quality in filters. And I can't stress that enough, that a good quality filter is super important.
Absolutely. I can't remember what the ProMaster. So I know ProMaster makes a couple of lines of filters. Get their best.
Yep.
Because it's going to be better optical glass, and that's what it's all about. Greater clarity, greater transmission, which is really what you want in a filter. So even if it's a polarizing filter or just a straight UV or neutral density, very important. Just food for thought. Okay. Number 3 is that all of the Sigma lenses, when you buy it from a great dealer like Pixel Connection, they all come with a U.S. warranty. The U.S. warranty is 4 years, just FYI. Now, if you use a lens a lot and you suddenly discover that the lens is getting soft, you can send it in for Sigma. We will adjust the focus for free within the 4-year period. We will pretty much repair. Again, the only thing that will cost you is if you've dropped the lens. And it's pretty easy to tell impact damage on a lens, particularly once you take it apart. So just FYI, but
And
focus
I also want to
and
note
all
too,
that.
that's one benefit for, going through us, or
Yes,
if you purchase the lens for, from us, if something happens, it's not up to your standards, or you see something happens, bring it into the store and we take care of that process for you. We
right,
can get it to Sigma, we can ship it there, we can get it back, we can handle that whole process. So you're not doing this on your own, especially if you're, a working photographer and you have jobs coming up. I mean, we can, we have the rentals there as well. So if you need to rent, that lens in the meantime, we can help you with that process. So that way you're not just out there. Don't feel like you're out there stranded on an island. And you said
right.
4 years, right?
Absolutely,
4
4 years.
years.
That's
So
correct.
it's,
Yes,
and for the price, I mean, so look at what, if we step through again, I want to talk about what we've covered so far is a ton of lenses that solve a lot of problems for photographers, utmost quality, and finally they stand by their product. So,
yes,
for 4 years, I mean, that's a really long time, especially in photographer years, that you're using that lens day after day, that it's still on, year 4 still performs as well as day 1.
yes. It's amazing. So, on top of that, so back to quickly close with the contemporary line. Um, Again, don't be afraid to try them. There's the 100 to 400 is around $600, a little more than $600, which is truly amazing. Again, for that lens, and the 150 to 600 contemporary is just under $900. So again, food for thought. They're really great. Um, I will warn you that most folks who have a 100 to 400 always want something longer. The 150 to 600 is it. My suggestion would be spend the extra couple $100 and buy the 150 to 600. Yes, it is bigger. It is heavier. Yes, it does come with a tripod collar, which means you can mount a monopod, the lens on a monopod, or a tripod. I'm a big monopod fan because people always complain that, a tripod is cumbersome and it doesn't make you quiet as you can't get around. It cuts into your freedom. But a monopod makes life much easier. It's easy to carry. I also carry the camera and the lens over my shoulder on the monopod, and it does great. Although with that said, you also have to you have to make sure that the quick release plate is locked in place. So I've been at a couple of sporting events where I've seen the photographer put the monopod on his shoulder and the whole camera and lens comes off.
Yep.
So just FYI.
Yep. And if you can bring that back up, I want to point out one thing about the tripod collar there. That looks like Arca Swiss to me.
Yes. On the 150 to 600, it is a smooth plate. There is no Arca Swiss. We do sell an Arca Swiss plate. However, with that said, you can always buy Arca Swiss quick release plates.
Yep.
Probably
Absolutely.
from a number of different manufacturers. So
But that's a nice that you have that standard on there. You can see, that it's Arca Swiss, so it already works with your existing items.
yes.
So
The 60 to 600 has this as well. The 3 lenses that don't are the 150 to 600 contemporary and the sport, and the 60 to 600.
okay.
Oh no, I take that back. Sorry, the 120 to 300 f2.8. One because they're slightly older.
Yep.
But the Arca Swiss foot from us is available for the for sure on the sport lens. I'd have to double check real quick on the contemporary, but I think it's there.
Yep.
So,
And if not, we have the plates in stock.
right,
So if you
there we
need to
go.
pick one up while
Exactly.
you're
Yes.
there. Real quick, I'm going to just cover a few things that have come out. So Brian, thanks so much for taking the time to do this today. Nice to see you and get some insight into Sigma lenses. I'm a happy 150 to 600 contemporary zoom lens user.
There
So
we
again,
go.
another one.
There we go.
So somebody back at the store said the HGX Prime series uses top-notch shot glass and are manufactured in Japan. So the
There we go.
HGX Primes, or the HGX Prime, which is ProMaster. No, not ProMaster, HGX. Those are going to be some of the best that you can get for your lenses.
Okay.
We often get questions about what lenses teleconverters will or will not work on. Can you go over why certain lenses will not work with teleconverters?
Okay. Number one, what people forget all the time, in the name, teleconverters are designed to work with telephoto lenses. They are not designed to work with any lens 50 millimeters or shorter. Part of it is because the rear element on most of those lenses, and particularly the zooms, sits too far back in the lens mount for the teleconverter to mount up to. So again, they were all designed for longer lenses. You can put a teleconverter on the 85. Actually, I take that back. You can put it on the 70 millimeter macro, the 85, the 105, the 135. Yes, they will not fit on the 24 to 105. It will not fit on the 24 to 70, the 14 to 24. Again, because those are wide angle zooms. Any lens long, like I said, longer than 50, and the teleconverter will mount to it. Sigma does make teleconverters, the TC 1401, which is a 1.4x. It adds 40% to the lens and one stop. And we make a 2001, TC 2001, which is a 2x teleconverter and adds two stops going forward. So food for thought. Canon also makes really good teleconverters in the Series 3. Nikon and Sony also make teleconverters. Now, I'm going to quickly divert from that. One of the things that people forget all the time, and to me this is a great, relatively inexpensive accessory, is extension tubes. If you like portrait photography and you can't get quite close enough with your 85 or your 105 or 135 lens, you can go to a 12 millimeter extension tube, which allows you to get significantly closer. There we go. And the advantage of that is that generally when you buy teleconverters, they come in a set of 2 or 3, and they're stackable. They do not have any glass in them, so you don't have to worry about the lens quality falling off. Because it's pushing the lens farther away, it will allow you significantly closer focus. Please remember that when you use a teleconverter, you will lose the ability to focus to infinity. So if you're photographing, I'm trying to think of a really good example. If you're photographing close-ups of flowers and suddenly you see a bald eagle swooping through your backyard and you go to focus to infinity, it won't allow you to do that. You'd have to pull the the extension tube off. So just food for thought. But beyond that, it's not often you get the eagle flying through your backyard. But it's just one of those things to remember.
Absolutely. Cool. So, what other questions do we have, guys? Did you have anything else you wanted to?
The only other thing I wanted to add is a couple of quick announcements. Yeah. One, Pixel offers some really great online classes. Obviously, when the COVID-19 thing is over, they offer great classes in person. And on top of that, they have a conference coming up August 14 to 16th called Pixel Fest. This is probably the best photo deal on the planet. It is 3 days of education, workshops, photo walks, studio shooting with a wide host of presenters that are very successful in their specific fields of photography. I highly recommend this. They also have several manufacturers there. Sigma will be there lending out lenses for the workshops.
Absolutely.
Another great opportunity to try a lens. So, great slide. Yeah, it's coming up. It'll be in Cleveland.
Yep, at Cleveland State.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Cleveland State. So is that where it was last year? Was that Cleveland?
Yeah, but we actually outgrew that previous space.
I'm not surprised.
We're actually going to a larger area of Cleveland State. We're taking over the largest space that they have, actually. So,
great.
We're excited for that. And then also, I wanted to let you know, Sigma has, I believe, 2 speakers that are going to be there. They're top secret. That gets announced very soon. But we've already announced 5 speakers. So Vanessa Joy, Aaron Anderson, Jeff Carpenter, Isaac Coffey, Jen and Travis Stitt. They are the first 5 that we have announced. And for you guys, you can actually save $100 by using the code Lunch and Learn when you register. So that's half off. So for $100, you get 3 days of intense hands-on. You can borrow any of the lenses that we talked about today. You can check out their new camera as well, which is part of the L Mount Alliance, the FP. All that stuff is going to be there for you to try. and play and get amazing images. At the end of the day, that's what the conference is for, is to get you to try new things and get outside that comfort zone. So,
Terrific.
absolutely. And then going on from there, I have a couple announcements as well. I wanted to let you know that this week's photo contest is pets, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your pet. It can be your neighbor's pet. Just say, maybe use that 100 to 400 or that 150 to 600 from Sigma to get some nice pictures of either your pets or your neighbor's pets, or just a dog, animal. I mean, it could be a giraffe, a llama, whatever it is. We want to see your pets. And again, these contests I get to create them, create the themes, and that's actually my new puppy there. So that's what kind of inspired it. My puppy, George Eastman, named after, his name's George. So you could tell when my wife gets mad at him, because she'll be like, George Eastman, Finn, blah, 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 blah. Like she'll start yelling at him. So it has become his name, George Eastman, in honor of Mr. George Eastman himself. But we want to see your pet photos, and you can win $50. So again, this is a $50 gift card that you can use in store or online. And the winner, email me, I send you a gift card code. Super easy, easiest way that you'll win $50, I promise.
Excellent.
Then moving on from there, I want to let you guys know that we are still doing 20% off all Think Tank and Mind Shift bags. So if you pick up that 150 to 600, that 60 to 600, and you need a new larger bag for it, now's the time to jump on those Think Tank bags of the utmost quality, super durable. I travel a ton with mine, and I can't speak highly enough for the Think Tank bags. Also, this is an important slide. So let's say you take a picture of your pet. You win a $50 gift card from us. How awesome is that? Pretty awesome. You take that and you're like, you know what? I'm finally going to buy that new art lens that I've been looking at. Well, Sigma's offering, just for our live stream audience here, we're actually doing an additional savings. So number one is you could win the $50 from me. Number two, you can get an additional $50 off any regularly priced Sigma lens, $400 or more, or $25 off anything that's $399 or less. And I did want to point out, this offer can be combined with our current instant rebates that we have going on. The only ones that it doesn't work with are flashes, cameras, the 18 to 300, the USB dock, the MC11, and the MC21. I don't think I'm missing any on there, Brian.
No, that looks good. Yeah.
Yep, that's all of them. And then also on top of that, this is what I think is probably cool overall, is the fact that 5% of your lens sale goes to help the Cleveland Food Bank. So we take that, let's say it's, $50, we take that, or $100, we get that over to the Cleveland Food Bank, and then that's more meals that can go to people that are in need right now. So it's triple dipping, if you will, because you're saving money from us. You're getting an additional $50 off from this, that they've been so generous to offer us that, and then you're also helping families in need. So definitely take advantage of that if you're even remotely thinking about picking up a new lens. I also want to let you know that we are offering one-on-ones. So let's say you want to, learn a little bit more about bird photography, live streaming, Lightroom, whatever that is. You can reach out and we can set up a one-to-one, a virtual one-to-one, where we jump into a chat like this, but it's only us, and we go through what problems you're having in your business and with your photography. If you just want to learn something new, say it's Lightroom or a new technique, anything like that, we jump on and we help you out in a more one-to-one setting. So if you want, or you're interested in that, please reach out and just shoot me a message and we'll get that lined up. I want to let you know what's going on for the next week or so. Today, we are so gracious that Brian joined us from Sigma. And again, if you have any last-minute questions, now's the time to get those in the chat window. Tomorrow is the Friday Focus. I have a lot of juicy, good articles to talk about, especially with that R5 and that R6 that are rumored to be coming out. Well, they're not rumored now. I mean, Canon actually confirmed some specs for us. On Monday, we're going to have another lens segment. This is a question, this whole lens segment thing is a question that we got a lot. So that's why we're kind of adding a little bit more programming around lenses, because people are like, you know what? I mean, I've been thinking about to pick up a new lens, but I didn't know the difference between DC and DJ, or what's the art, what's the contemporary. That's why we brought Brian on to answer those questions. We're going to do this similar thing with Sony on Monday. So then moving on from there, Tuesday, we're going to have Sarah. She's a local photographer, working out some final details with her this afternoon, actually, because she wants to make sure that we are meeting the needs of you guys. So we've reached out to a couple people who, join us and are interested in, that children, baby, that portraiture style photography. So that's what that's going to be themed on Lumix. It's kind of a harsh title, Your Video Sucks, but honestly, mine does. So, I'm actually like, yeah, you're right. So Jordan Bunch, he's a global ambassador from Lumix. He's going to share 5 things that most photographers screw up when they start their video, or, on their video journey, or beginning filmmakers as well. So Jordan is great. I've worked with him on many events. He's the perfect person to talk about, this topic. And getting started, he does the judging at WPPI. He runs a studio that's done a ton of commercial stuff. So definitely, if you're thinking about video, tune into that. On Thursday, we're going to be talking with ProPhoto, a little light lunch, as we like to call it, where we just hang out and talk about lighting. Not necessarily just more about ProPhoto. We already did that with Eric, where he explained the line. But this is more about, actually using the lights. And then next Friday will be the Friday focus. So if we have any questions, I don't see any that are in here. Brad Cohn says, hi, Brian. So hello, Brad, our friend Brad. I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us today, Brian. The wealth of knowledge that you shared, it doesn't go unnoticed. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for taking time out of your day to help educate just a little bit more about not only Sigma, but photography in general. So
absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. You all are very lucky. Pixel is an amazing dealer.
Thank you.
One of the greatest things about Pixel is that everybody in the store, they're all photographers or videographers. They all have great experience, and they've all been in the trenches. So they know where you've been and what you're dealing with. They're really great people, and they take time to listen to you and to help you. They're again, just an amazing staff. So you're very lucky.
We are all creators helping creators, and
yes.
And that love, that passion of photography is what drives us all. So if you guys do need absolutely anything, please feel free to reach out to us, whether it's email, social, give us a call. The phones were crazy yesterday. I was in store yesterday, answering, just call after call. So if you guys need absolutely anything, please feel free to reach out. And we want to remind you, practice makes perfect. So if you do, if you are looking for something to do, you've binge watched Tiger King, you have nothing else to binge watch on Netflix, get out there and shoot. The weather is starting, like yesterday, it was snowing on the way home, and I can kick myself because I didn't have a camera in the car. But, the weather is, starting to hopefully get a little bit warmer. It's not as bad as like the Arctic vortex. So get out there, shoot. Or tomorrow I'm going to share a couple things, projects that you can do from inside your house. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Bill Delaney, for thanking Brian and us. We appreciate you being here just as much as you appreciate us every day. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.
Thanks a lot.